Greeno. I'm Brittany, the student clinician. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I'm meeting with you today because I wanted to discuss the evaluation that I gave Lila and the results of that. I know based on our previous conversation and kind of the meetings that I've had with her teacher, I know that Lila's having difficulties with speaking in front of people, especially in her group assignments. I know that it's affecting some of her grades. I know that you stated that it's hard for you to understand her at times, and I know that it's been leading to some frustration for her. So I did go ahead and give her an evaluation, and I kind of wanted to go over the results of that. But if I ever move too quickly or you have questions, just go ahead and stop me, okay? Okay, so I gave Lila what's called the Goldman-Firstow test of articulation. This is a test that looks at her specific speech sounds. So I provide Lila with a picture and I have her label it so that I can listen to how she's producing her sounds. So some of the errors that I heard from her, for example, is what's called fronting. She was replacing her G sounds with D's. So for example, instead of saying go, she would say do. I heard her reduce some of her clusters, which means, like, for example, spider, it has that SP cluster. She gave me piter. She would glide some of her R's to L's and W's. So for example, instead of saying plate, she would say plate. Instead of saying ring, she would say wing. For her SH sound, depending on where it was in the word, she'd replace it with a different letter. So at the beginning of the word, for example, shoe, she would say do. And at the end of the word, like fish, she would say fit. Her TH sounds were substituted for F's and V's and sometimes S's. So for example, she would say mother, she would say mother, or teeth, she would say teeth. I also noticed that she was deleting some sounds or some letters at the end of her words. For example, for glasses, she would say glat. Or for leaf, she would say lee. I did hear a few vowel distortions or errors, and that was pretty much all that I saw for her. So based off of all of those sounds, she did receive a score of 40. Now our usual standard score, or our mean, is anywhere from 85 to 115. So she does fall in that severe range. She is 2 standard deviations below the average, so she's a little lower than we would like to see her. I wouldn't worry or don't be too scared about the number 40, because I know with the Goldman-Firstow, it really looks at the same sound over and over and over. So it is a little easier to get a lower score on this than others. And then I also gave her an informal assessment, which is called a PCC, or a percentage of consonants correct. That looks at Lila's intelligibility. How much can we understand her? And it looks at how many consonants that she can produce, divided by how many consonants were possible to produce. She did score a score of 63%, so that means that she's 63% intelligible. She's intelligible 63% of the time. I apologize, I mixed that up. That does put her in the severe range for her speech. And that would explain why we can't understand her. That would explain why she's getting a little frustrated when speaking. So with those scores, Lila is eligible for speech services with your consent, of course. I'm recommending 30 minutes of speech 3 times a week for her, just so that we can go ahead and get a start on treating those sounds, because the sooner the better. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I guess, so, I mean, the sounds that you were talking about with the Carson stuff, it definitely, it sounds familiar, like what we hear at home as well. But I guess just without myself knowing much about speech therapy, what does that look like? Like, what does speech therapy look like for her, like a session, I guess?
Yeah, of course. So Lila's going to be pulled out of class 3 times a week. So usually that's during her electives, and she'll be with a few peers that are also having speech issues as well. And sometimes we'll do different things. It depends. We'll do games in some sessions. We might do worksheets. I always send them home with homework after every session. I do a fun thing, which is like our sticker charts. in our sessions that the kids will work for, and that kind of leads to the treasure box. So, yeah, that's usually how we pull her out. Does that answer the question?
Yes, no, it does. And I actually was going to ask about like school time, and you mentioned electives. So it's not like she's going to be missing a lot of class time or having to make up that work a lot.
Right.
Is that right?
Right, exactly. So the teachers are pretty good about working with the SLPs and making sure that the kids are not pulled out of classes that are going to require a lot of makeup work, which is usually why we prefer to pull them out of electives. So that way that she's not missing. I know at her age and in her grade, there's so much work that's required for them. So yeah, we try to avoid that as best as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I'm glad that you have a plan. It's nice to know that there's a plan. I guess,
Mhm.
you know, a mom, the word severe is always just looming, I guess, if you will. So it's just like, does this mean that she never gets better, or
Right.
do we remain optimistic? I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So I am expecting Lila to improve, especially with the resources and the amount of therapy that I'm planning to give her. That's why I picked 3 times a week. Usually we get a little reluctant to pull a 10-year-old that's in 6th grade out of her classes. I know that that's a lot of work that she could potentially be missing, but I think that with her errors, she really needs it. Excuse me, so sorry. And so sometimes it depends on the kid. Sometimes kids come into therapy and they want to work hard, and that helps their progress. And some kids come into the session and they would rather be anywhere else other than therapy. So it depends on the kid. I also have some different resources that I can give you that will help her progress, that she can work on at home. For example, there's a great app called Boom Learning, which is free, and she can go online and kind of do some fun little games that will target her certain sounds. YouTube has amazing videos of SLPs that kind of break down sounds in a little bit of an easier way. I have some handouts. Of course, I have the homework that I'll send home with her, and that's going to be something that she does at home and I would need you to sign off on. And then when she returns it, she'll get things like a sticker or something to kind of reward her for that type of work. But yeah, I know Lila wants to improve, and I think that that's half the battle, so I do expect to see some improvement with her.
Okay. Yeah, it's a team effort for sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm gonna get this report sent to you. If you have any questions for me, let me know. I plan on starting with Lila next week. So yeah, I'm excited to work with her, and if you have any questions, just send me an email.
Okay, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thanks for meeting with me.